A very good evening. You're watching News 9 Facebook Live with me, Adarsh Wepachedu. I'm back once again to speak to you about a trending topic. Of course, we're talking about how flying has resumed in the country on the 25th of May. But not just us right here as journalists, people across the country have also been raising questions as to how safe is it for people to travel from point A to point B in an aircraft, and whether the airports, the airlines, the government per se are taking enough measures on ground to ensure a safe travel for passengers across the country. Now, after May 25th, ever since the flight services were resumed, several hundred flights have taken off from different cities across the country and have ferried passengers in thousands so far. But yes, two instances have come to the fore which have raised questions and also concerns in the minds of passengers. A 50-year-old Alliance Air employee has tested positive on board a Delhi-Ludhiana flight. And fortunately, only 11 people were on board this aircraft. All of them have been subsequently quarantined after the employee of Alliance Air, that is, in a sense, Indian Airlines, has tested positive on board this Delhi-Ludhiana flight. In another instance, an entire Indigo ground crew has been stalled, or they've been grounded after a passenger on the Chennai-Coimbatore flight tested positive. So it's not just passengers in the aircraft, even the ground crew, the maintenance crew, several other people who form the overall functioning of an airline are also at the receiving end of coronavirus. And in this particular case, it's the ground crew of Indigo that have been grounded after a passenger on Chennai-Coimbatore flight tested positive. So these are two instances that have cropped up in the recent past that have raised a few concerns as to how safe airports are and as to how safe the flights are really. But looking on ground as to what kind of action the airports are taking, the airlines are taking, they're ensuring that all surfaces, all high contact surfaces, right from railings to the trolleys that passengers carry, all of these are sanitized almost on an hourly basis, timely basis. That apart, the Airports Authority of India has also ensured that all airports get fresh air, in the sense that the air that is currently circulating in the air is in the airport is constantly pushed out, and fresh air is brought into the airport premises. This to ensure that if in case there is coronavirus in the air, it is quickly sent out and you have fresh air coming into the airport. That apart, you have several measures like adequate social distancing. There are markings also on the ground to ensure that passengers are maintaining enough distance between one another while they are going through the entire process. Web check-in has been encouraged, has been permitted from home, so that passengers do not have to go through that process. And several other rules, such as carrying only one baggage and trying to make sure that you do not have any check-in baggage, because that again entails standing in a queue. So there have been like this several other measures that airports and airlines across the country have taken. But yes, one of the other important factors remains as to how the middle seat in aircrafts continue to be occupied. There was a suggestion that was floated that the middle seats in aircrafts be left empty, which will in a sense ensure some sort of social distancing. But the airlines have almost protested. They have said that if they were to fly aircraft with the middle seat empty, then they would be incurring huge losses. So given the kind of situation that arises, that prevails, you have airlines functioning, you have aircrafts functioning almost, but again, despite the fact that you don't have the middle seats left empty, they're being occupied, the overall strength or the overall number of passengers in an aircraft is substantially low. We're talking about how around 50 to 60 passengers are allowed to fly in each of these flights. So that comes as a bit of relief. But yes, right from the point where you get down at the airport to the point where you reach the gate, there are several points, right from the check-in service, the check-in counters, from your baggage collection points. There are several areas and several points throughout your flight where you can come into contact with objects, with surfaces. So how safe are all of these objects and surfaces being maintained in airports and also in aircrafts is one question. Now, we've also spoken about how all the passengers have been advised to keep and download the Arogya Setu app, which detects and monitors the number of COVID-19 cases around a particular person. It also ensures that a health update is collected of that particular passenger. So despite the Arogya Setu app being used and being promoted, you have a case where people are testing positive for coronavirus. So how viable and how instrumental and how fruitful is the Arogya Setu app, and what has it really done to ensure that people who have tested positive for coronavirus do not board the flight in the first place, is a question that really stands at this point in time. So yes, I'm sure you have a lot of questions that you need answers for. So I'm going to quickly flip out my phone and take a look on Facebook as to what you've posted. Well, again, May 25th, and within a matter of just 2 days, we are looking at least a couple of cases arising either at the airport or in the aircraft itself. So that's indeed a massive scare for passengers who continue to travel on a daily basis. So yes, you're posting questions about when will the tech parks open, when will the gyms be open, and whether malls will be open. Yes, we are deviating from the topic a little right here, but yes, at this point in time, lockdown 4.0, you will not have any of these entities, any of these establishments that will open. They will all remain closed. So we'll have to wait till the end of the fourth phase of lockdown and hope to have these further relaxations. But again, when you're talking about gyms and when you're talking about tech parks, obviously these are areas that see a lot of accumulation of a lot of people. A lot of people converge at these places. So that throws social distancing out of the window, which is the exact reason as to why malls, gyms, and even tech parks are being shut, are remaining to be shut at least till the end of fourth phase of the lockdown. You have another question: when will we get medicine for coronavirus? Or medicine for coronavirus, essentially. Well, the WHO, the World Health Organization themselves have expressed some sort of an apprehension. They have said that it is not coming out anytime soon, but truth be told, there are at least about 8 companies across the world that are carrying out their research in full swing, and they're ahead in the race. But the quickest company at this point in time happens to be Moderna in the United States. They have just completed the phase 1 of human trials. So the phase 2 of human trials will begin sometime in June, July. So even if we were to consider Moderna's medicine that is coming in from the United States, it might take at least an year or so before we get a vaccine. So in simple terms, it is highly unlikely that in the next 1 year or so we will be getting a coronavirus vaccine. But yes, it's the 21st century, and we can all be optimistic and positive that with the rate of advancement when it comes to science, technology, and medicine, hopefully we'll be able to find a vaccine sooner than 1 year. So you have a few more questions. When will the school and universities be open for examinations? Well, this again is a dicey question. The future of students is really at stake when it comes to the entire coronavirus pandemic and subsequently the lockdown itself. So far, we're only having governments and education ministries speaking about how to ensure classes are conducted. So you have virtual classes that are being conducted for students at least as far as possible in as many schools or from as many schools as possible. But when it comes to examinations, there is no sure word at this point in time. So it only looks like there will be quite a delay when it comes to the examinations, because you'll have to first start with teaching the students their syllabus, their course, and then eventually you'll have a state where examinations will be held. So yes, yes, there's another question again pertaining to flying. I have booked the ticket 6 June next week. I'm traveling from Hyderabad to Bangalore. What about quarantine period? It's compulsory to stay in other states. Well, if you're coming down to Bengaluru, you will have to undergo institutional quarantine for 14 days. After that, you will be subjected to home quarantine, as in you will have to stay at home and not get out for another 10 to 15 days. So that's the norm that we are following here in Karnataka. Any person, especially if you were coming around from a few states like Maharashtra, like Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, the states that have witnessed quite a few cases, a huge surge in the number of cases. If you're coming in from these states, then yes, 14 days of institutional quarantine is mandatory if you're landing anywhere in Karnataka. Another comment that says, for retailer, this is very cruel time. If still malls will not open, then it's very hard to run life. How could we serve our life staying at home, continue whatever we have, save money, everything is finished. Well, I can really feel the pain that you're going through. Retailers are having to go through a tough time. When it comes to what the government has done, not so much. They've been doing a bit for the MSMEs. A package has been announced by the union government, but how much of it will really trickle down to the traders, and how much of a financial assistance will that prove to be? Not so much. So the traders can only hope and wait that all their establishments like malls, shops and so on will be allowed to open at least after the fourth phase of lockdown. That again is the only way forward. But yes, if we were to do that, what about the number of coronavirus cases? With the fourth phase of lockdown that has begun, the number of cases has only increased. It has almost skyrocketed. Fourth phase of lockdown has seen quite a few relaxations and restrictions. So that has proved to be almost, in a sense, detrimental when it comes to the number of cases. Though it might have put the economy back on its track, at least it has begun to do so. So yes, it's indeed a balancing act between lives that are at stake and economy that continues to be in doldrums. So yes, once the fourth phase of lockdown is over, we'll have to see as to which way the government will think, and how will the fifth phase of lockdown, if in case there is one, how will that really pan out? What are the nitty-gritties? We'll get to know in a while to come. But yes, this has been my brief interaction. I hope you've come to a conclusion as to how safe is it if you were to take a flight, and what are the kind of precautions you need to follow. And yes, ensure that you're following all kinds of rules and regulations that have been imposed by the government. And this, of course, is for your own well-being in case if you're taking a flight. Many thanks for joining us. This is Adarsh Shwepachedu signing off.